Hello everybody, welcome to the show. Please hit the subscribe button and give this episode a thumbs hell. Watch the. At 19 years old, Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson steps into the soft glow of a morning that feels quieter than the chaos she once knew. The world around her humming with the gentle promise of change. And as she inhales, she tastes both the sweetness of freedom and the bittersweet memory of everything that shaped her. The title of her life whispering again and again. At 19, Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going. A mantra echoing in her heartbeat as she begins to speak. She remembers the flashing lights of reality TV, the cameras that followed her steps before she even understood what childhood was supposed to mean, fame that wrapped around her like glitter and confusion, applause that sounded loud enough to drown out the tremors in her home, chaos brewing behind closed doors while the world laughed and clapped, and she learned early that sometimes the spotlight burns more than it shines, that sometimes a child can feel small even when millions are watching. Alana sits with these memories, letting them flow like a river she can finally navigate, her voice steady but soft. She says that childhood was not a fairy tale but a whirlwind, a storm in which she had to find her own center, her own way to stay standing. She learned that strength can grow even in places where love feels uncertain, and every time the world said honey boo boo, she quietly asked herself, who is Alana and who will she become? She recalls the nights when her home felt like a battlefield of addiction, arguments, broken trust, headlines that twisted her life into entertainment, and she remembers being so young yet forced to understand things no child should analyze. She remembers feeling both fiercely loved and deeply overwhelmed, as if she were trying to grow flowers in soil full of cracks, yet somehow she grew anyway. Now she repeats in her mind again. At 19, Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going, and every repetition feels like a step forward, a step out of the shadows of who she used to be. As she speaks, she talks about the moments of escape, the laughter she clung to, the silly dances, the sugary snacks on set, the rare quiet afternoons with her sister Pumpkin, who became a shelter when the storms got too loud. She talks about how sisterhood became an anchor, something solid and steady, something that gave her permission to believe she could rise above everything that tried to pull her down. She describes how the world judged her weight, her accent, her family, her choices, how strangers shaped opinions before she even shaped herself, but she kept moving, kept fighting, kept hoping, because deep inside her heart something whispered that she was more than a meme, more than a punchline, more than a kid on TV. She was a girl with dreams too large to fit inside the frame of any episode. And now at 19 she looks back without fear, without the heaviness that once chained her. She looks back with courage. She looks back with understanding. She says every mistake, every heartbreak, every headline carved her into someone stronger, someone wiser, someone ready to claim her own story. And again her story calls out its title. At 19, Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going, weaving itself into the rhythm of her breathing. She remembers the pressure of growing up fast, signing papers she barely understood, watching adults collapse under their own choices, trying to be responsible in a world where responsibility felt too big for her small hands, yet she carried it anyway, stumbling sometimes, rising always. She learned that survival is not always loud, sometimes it is quiet, sometimes it is simply waking up and deciding to try again. Alana talks about therapy, about the first time she admitted she was hurting, about the fear of saying I need help, about how the world expected her to be funny, bubbly, loud. But she discovered that real strength sometimes whispers instead of shouts. She says healing is not glamorous but necessary. She says she is proud of herself in ways she never imagined. Her story continues flowing like one long breath, no pause, only movement. She remembers learning to trust again, learning to forgive without forgetting, learning that family is complicated but love can still find its way through the mess. She remembers making promises to herself to never repeat the cycles that once trapped her home. She remembers imagining a future so different from her past that sometimes she wondered if it was allowed. Now she speaks of independence, of working hard, of studying, of dreaming about becoming a nurse, a professional, a woman who gives comfort instead of needing it, who builds stability instead of surviving instability. Her dreams stretch like sunlight across the horizon, warm and full of possibility. She says that even though people still call her Honey Boo Boo, she has grown into Alana, a young woman with fire in her voice and softness in her heart. A woman who knows that identity is not defined by childhood or by chaos or by cameras. Identity is shaped by resilience, by choice, by the quiet decision to rise again and again. And once more the mantra flows through her. At 19, Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going. And this time it feels like a declaration, a reclaiming of her narrative, a rewriting of her beginning. She speaks of love, of the people who stayed, of the ones who left, of the lessons each one taught her. She speaks of heartbreak that nearly crushed her, of friendships that mended her, of moments when she thought she could not continue but somehow did. Her voice trembles only slightly as she admits that some days she still hears echoes of old pain, but she meets them with the strength she built brick by brick, tear by tear, victory by victory. She meets them with the belief that she is worthy of peace, worthy of happiness, worthy of writing chapters untouched by turmoil. And the script continues flowing, weaving memories with hopes, past with present, like a ribbon twisting through the air. She says she is grateful for the girl she used to be because that girl endured so much and still dared to smile, still dared to dream, and because of her the woman she is becoming stands firmly rooted in courage. She promises herself to honor that younger version of Alana, to protect her, to cherish her, to give her the life she deserved but never received fully. And again the story breathes its title at 19. Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going, circling like an anthem of survival. Her eyes brighten as she speaks about the future, about moving forward without forgetting where she came from, about building a life defined by her own choices, her own values, her own dreams. She envisions a home filled with warmth, not chaos, a life filled with purpose, not pressure, a heart filled with healing, not fear. The narrative flows on, steady as a heartbeat, powerful as the girl who lived it, layered with emotion and reflection, rising like a phoenix from the ashes of childhood turmoil. At 19, Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going as she steps deeper into the quiet spaces of her memory, walking softly through each moment that shaped her, touching the wounds that once felt too sharp to even acknowledge, and every step she takes feels like peeling back another layer of a story the world thought it already knew, yet never truly understood. She remembers sitting in small cluttered rooms filled with producers, makeup artists, bright outfits, sugary snacks, and the loud laughter of adults who seemed unaware of how overwhelming it all was for a little girl. She remembers being told to smile bigger, act funnier, be louder, as if happiness was something she could turn on like a switch, even on days when her heart felt heavy, even when the tension at home followed her like a shadow. Alana breathes deeply now as she retells everything, her voice steady and raw, each word flowing into the next like a river that refuses to stop, refusing to be contained, refusing to be silenced again. She says that childhood should have been simple, gentle, filled with warmth, yet hers was a mixture of glitter and thunder, affection and fear, applause and arguments, hope wrapped tightly around heartbreak. Again the title hums through her story at 19. Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going, repeating like a heartbeat guiding her forward. She talks about the moments when she tried to protect herself by acting stronger than she felt, how she hid worry behind jokes, how she escaped into laughter because it was the only thing that didn't break around her, how she learned to read the room before she could fully read words, sensing tension, anticipating storms, preparing herself for the unpredictable rhythm of her home. The world saw her as carefree, bubbly, confident, but behind the scenes she often felt like she was balancing on thin ice, pretending it was fun, pretending it was normal. She remembers hearing adults whisper about addiction, about money, about responsibilities they could not hold on to, and she remembers being too young to understand yet too smart to ignore. Alana lets her thoughts unfurl like ribbon, long, flowing, emotional. She says the hardest part was not the fame, not the cameras, not the pressure, but the fear of losing people she loved to battles she could not fight for them. She says watching a parent struggle with addiction leaves a mark deeper than any criticism from the outside world. It teaches you to grow up before your time, to guard your heart, to hope fiercely even when hope feels exhausting. She repeats again softly at 19. Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going, letting the words settle like dust before rising again. She remembers Pumpkin stepping in like a guardian, barely an adult but strong enough to carry both herself and her little sister. She remembers crying quietly into pillows so no one would hear. She remembers wishing for normalcy, stability, routine, simple things that many people take for granted. She remembers promising herself she would break generational patterns. She would not let chaos define her future. Now as she speaks, she talks about reclaiming her identity, about refusing to be trapped in the image the world created of Honey Boo Boo. She says that she is Alana before anything else, a young woman discovering her own worth, her own voice, her own dreams. She says healing is messy but beautiful, slow but powerful. She says every step forward feels like rewriting the ending of a story the world tried to write for her. Her voice carries strength as she describes the shift from survival to growth, from confusion to clarity, from chaos to calm. She says that even though her past was turbulent, it gave her something priceless, the ability to recognize her own resilience, the ability to rise again and again no matter how loud the world became, no matter how broken things once felt. And the title flows again through her thoughts at 19. Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going, echoing as both a memory and a declaration of victory. She speaks of learning independence, signing her own papers, making her own decisions, choosing her own friends, discovering what trust actually feels like. She talks about leaving behind people who drained her energy, people who saw her as a character instead of a human, people who benefited from her fame while ignoring her pain. She remembers the first time she looked in the mirror and saw not a child star, not a headline, not a meme, but a girl who survived more than most people know, a girl ready to turn her scars into strength, a girl determined to build a future brighter than her past could ever imagine. The memories continue flowing, almost endless. She describes moments of pure joy, late-night car rides with music blasting, giggles shared with Pumpkin's kids, quiet mornings drinking coffee while realizing she finally feels safe. She talks about celebrating small victories, about choosing peace over chaos, healing over hurt, growth over bitterness. She says she still carries the little girl inside her, the one who danced on TV, the one who tried so hard to stay positive, the one who deserved better. She holds her close, promises her that everything gets better, promises her that life will not always be this hard. Again, the title weaves through her narrative. At 19, Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going. A reminder of both where she came from and where she is headed. As she speaks more, she reflects on forgiveness, the slow, delicate kind, not forgetting what happened but releasing its grip, forgiving herself for things that were never her fault, forgiving the world for misunderstanding her, forgiving those who hurt her because holding on to pain only keeps the wounds open. She feels lighter now, freer, stronger. She says strength is not about pretending to be unbreakable. It is about knowing you can be broken and still rebuild, knowing you can fall and still rise, knowing you can cry and still move forward. Her story flows longer and longer, a river without stopping, a journey unfolding with each breath she takes. She speaks of the woman she wants to become, calm, educated, compassionate, successful. She dreams of building a career in nursing, helping others heal because she knows the value of healing herself. She dreams of a peaceful home, steady love, stability that feels earned, joy that feels real. She dreams of being surrounded by people who see her heart, not her fame, who love Alana, not Honey Boo Boo. And as the chapter stretches forward, she whispers again. At 19, Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going. Knowing this title is not an ending but a beginning, the start of a new era, she is writing with courage, patience, and grace. At 19, Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going as she steps even deeper into the heart of her memories, moving through the emotions that once felt too heavy to carry, yet now feel like pieces of a puzzle she is finally learning to assemble, each thought linking to the next, each emotion unraveling in soft, endless waves that refuse to stop. She remembers the long car rides between filming sessions, the windows fogged with laughter or silence depending on what chaos had erupted glass and. As she speaks now, her words stretch far like a horizon she is finally walking toward. She says that the world saw fame as a golden gift, but she felt the weight of it pressing on her shoulders long before she could even spell the word pressure. She felt responsible for smiles that weren't hers, energy she didn't always have, moments she had to perform even when her heart felt tired. And she learned early that the world loves a show even when the star of that show is hurting. Again, the title whispers through the pages of her mind. At 19, Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going, guiding her through memories like a lantern in the dark. She speaks of her mother, the complicated love, the fragile connection, the fear of watching someone you adore crumble under the weight of addiction. She remembers praying quietly that things would change, wishing her voice could reach the parts of her mother that were drowning, wishing she could pull her back to safety. She remembers feeling small yet carrying burdens too large for a child. She remembers the heartbreak of loving someone who could not stay steady. Now she exhales slowly, letting further memories spill out. She talks about Pumpkin fighting for custody, stepping into a role she never planned for yet embraced with fierce love. She talks about how her sister's strength became a foundation for her own, how Pumpkin was both a sibling and a shield, how she gave Alana permission to feel safe again, to breathe again, to hope again. The script flows like a never-ending thread pulling from the deepest corners of her story. She describes nights when she stayed awake imagining what a normal life might look like. School days uninterrupted by interviews, birthdays by drama, family dinners without screaming or slamming doors. She dreamed of simple peace, and that dream kept her going through the hardest moments. And then she smiles softly as she recalls how she started finding small pieces of that peace. The first time she went to high school without cameras. The first time she made friends who saw her as Alana, not Honey Boo Boo. The first time she felt like she was growing into her own skin instead of living inside a character someone else wrote for her. Again, the title intertwines with her breath. At 19, Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going, each repetition reminding her that she has survived every storm behind her. She talks about the criticism she faced online, strangers dissecting her body, her looks, her behavior as if she were not a teenager trying her best. She remembers crying sometimes when the comments became too cruel, wondering why people enjoyed hurting someone they had never met, wondering how words from a stranger could stab deeper than any physical wound. But she also remembers wiping those tears and reminding herself that their opinions were not her truth, that her value was not measured in likes or insults. She keeps talking, her voice filled with growth and vulnerability. She says that healing did not come all at once. It came in slow, gentle waves, one realization at a time, one step forward even after 2 steps back. She says the biggest lesson she learned was that she is allowed to choose herself, allowed to set boundaries, allowed to distance herself from chaos even if that chaos comes from people she loves. Her memories flow into her dreams once more, long and vivid. She sees herself working hard, studying, focusing, building a future she can be proud of. She sees herself becoming a nurse, holding hands of patients who feel scared, offering comfort she never received as a child, giving others the safety she longed for during the turbulence of her youth. And once again her story breathes the title at 19. Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going, like a banner flying above every chapter she has lived. She speaks of love next, the cautious kind, the kind she approaches with both hope and fear. She says she wants a partner who sees her heart, not her fame, someone who understands that she is soft but strong, wounded but healing. She dreams of a relationship built on respect, patience and honesty, not chaos, not headlines, not dysfunction. She vows to choose love that feels safe, not love that feels like walking on eggshells. Her voice grows warmer as she talks about confidence, how she fought for it, how she earned it, how she holds it close now like a treasure. She says she used to crumble under judgment, but now she stands firm, proud of who she is and who she is becoming. She embraces her body, her accent, her personality, her story, everything that makes her uniquely Alana. The script keeps expanding, flowing, stretching into something almost endless. She says she no longer hides her feelings behind jokes, no longer forces smiles when she is hurting. She allows herself to feel deeply, to cry when needed, to laugh when joy finds her, to rest when she is tired. She lets herself be human, not a character, not a spectacle, not a storyline. And still the mantra echoes at 19. Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going, each echo a reminder of how far she has come. She imagines her future home filled with quiet mornings, warm blankets, soft light, the smell of coffee, peace instead of panic. She imagines breaking every cycle that once broke her. She imagines raising children someday with gentleness, with understanding, with stability, showing them the love she had to search for, showing them what healing looks like. She reflects on gratitude next, the gratitude she carries for every painful moment that taught her resilience, for every embarrassing headline that taught her bravery, for every betrayal that taught her boundaries, for every tear that taught her how to rise again. She holds gratitude even for the turbulence, because without it she would not have become the woman she is becoming. And the script continues, flowing like a river that refuses to dry. She says she forgives her past not because it was easy but because she deserves peace. She forgives the world not because it was kind but because she is choosing to be. She forgives herself for every moment she felt weak because she now understands that surviving was its own kind of strength. At the end of this long breath she whispers again at 19. Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson reflects on her turbulent childhood and the strength that kept her going, knowing that though this chapter is long, her journey is far from over.